Now, both of you came to this enterprise with business experience, obviously, but do you feel that you learned something as a result of writing the book about entrepreneurship? Dave?
Oh, there's no question about it. This is a very different experience for me than books that I've written where I write the book. It's obviously a collaborative effort, and it's Mike's brainchild, and he created the structure for all of this. But it was brilliant because entrepreneurs are busy by the nature, and Mike did this in a way and structured it in a way that entrepreneurs could sit down and spend a reasonable amount of time thinking about it, get some help. It was edited in a way that the entrepreneurs could take this book and use it too and say, this is something that I've done and that I'm a part of.
Did you tape the interviews, Mike? Is that what it was?
Yeah, we did tape them, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were people that worked on it, because not everybody that's in the book has written books before, had the opportunity to, or would have the opportunity to take the time and the effort that it would take. But I'll tell you, I learned just every one of these chapters that I read had this distilled wisdom, and there's overlap, and there's things that come out of the blue, and I think the overlap and the uniqueness are both good, because to the extent that there's an overlap in these stories, you say, look, almost everybody that's been successful does these things, and to the extent there's something out of the blue, that's something you look at and say, well, is that my style or not? Can I bring this crazy idea to my business successfully?
Mike, in writing this book, did you develop a sense about what are the characteristics of a true entrepreneur? Did you come up with a list of, say, okay, these are the 5, 10 things that an entrepreneur really has to have in order to be truly an entrepreneur?
Yeah, most of them ran grass cutting businesses in high school.
Really?
Actually, if you go through the book,
There's hope for me.
yeah, there you go. There's 32 stories profiled. Some of the entrepreneurs in this book are very high profile. You'd recognize their names, instantly in the area. Fran McGowan, the owner of CarSense, Dave McGrogan, who owns several restaurants, et cetera. But several of them had landscaping businesses in high school. So I think one common trait with entrepreneurs is they start young. I'm sure, Dave, we were just talking about his teenage son, is an entrepreneur. And so I know I had a grass cutting business in 9th grade in high school. So I think one common trait is part of it is an innate, it's and God-given. They were born with the type of energy they have. I would say one of the most common denominators with entrepreneurs, whether it's in this book or even just around the world, is they just take action. I mean, that really is like a fundamental trait. They just take action. They may not get it right. Most entrepreneurs have failed a lot more than they've ever succeeded, but they're always moving forward. It's how they respond to failure that really differentiates themselves.
So they tend not to be theoretical people or not have paralysis by analysis type people.
Absolutely.
In fact, as entrepreneurs develop successful businesses, that's one of the things that they usually have to learn. They have to either learn those skills or recognize that they don't have them and get help.
Yeah. Let me re-identify you. My guests are Dave Fries III and Mike Capuzzi, and we're talking about Dream Incorporated, their new book about entrepreneurism and how to get some nuggets of wisdom, I guess is what you say about it. Dave, let me ask you, of the characteristics for an entrepreneur, are people born with, a sense of entrepreneurism, or is it something that they acquire along the road of life?
It's a great question. I think you could find people that would answer emphatically both ways. And because I have this sort of business schizophrenia, I'll play the devil's advocate and do it both ways. One of the things that we see, as Mike said, is that people who become successful entrepreneurs often, very often, started when they were young to do something. It isn't always money. Sometimes they were doing something that just put them in the limelight, but they often start young. The motivation, we have people coming out of families where there was never any entrepreneurship, and then we see people coming out of families that were highly business-oriented and entrepreneurial, and they're successful. So there's some, and they become successful entrepreneurs. There's some evidence that you're born into it. Having said that, both of us, I think, believe, and Michael, stop me if I'm wrong about this from his position, but both of us believe that there are things that we could teach people who want to be entrepreneurs that radically increase the likelihood of their success.
Yeah, okay. That actually is a good lead-in for the second part of our show. We're going to talk about what some of those things might be, but we have to take a break for commercial right now. Please stay with us. You're watching Poking Around Phoenixville, and when we come back, we'll have more about Dream Incorporated with Mike Capuzzi and Dave Fries. Stay with us.
Where most banks have their branches, Phoenixville Federal Bank and Trust has its roots. Whether you need a checking or savings account, a mortgage loan or home equity line of credit, a student loan to continue your education, or investment services, Phoenixville Federal Bank and Trust understands all of your banking needs individually. For more than 90 years, Phoenixville Federal has provided our community with personalized, friendly banking services. For more information, go to our website or stop by the branch in your hometown. Phoenixville Federal Bank and Trust. Your town, your bank, your interest.
Hi, welcome back to Poking Around Phoenixville. I'm Lou Beccaria, and we have the pleasure today of talking with Mike Capuzzi and Dave Fries about their new book, Dream Incorporated, about entrepreneurism. And we're talking about some really fascinating kinds of stuff here about people who want to be entrepreneurs and start their own businesses. Leadership and entrepreneurism. Dave, let's start with you, and then we'll also, Mike, will get your perspective on it. Are leadership skills and entrepreneur skills the same?
I would say no. What makes a great entrepreneur does not always make a great leader. It's not to say that you can't have some overlap. I don't know how you feel, Mike.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would say, I mean, obviously there's some very well-known entrepreneurs that are amazing leaders, but I would say I don't think it's, a lot of entrepreneurs I know, would never want to necessarily lead a company or a group. They're just, very content with, creating products or services that the market wants to, invest in.
So that raises another question. Does entrepreneurism mean something different to everybody? There's not one general concept about entrepreneurism, but what I feel, if I'm trying a new task as an entrepreneur, may be different from Mike's or you, Dave. Is that pretty well true?
Yeah, certainly the goals and outcomes of entrepreneurism differ for everybody. I think there is a sort of streak of independence, and I think the people that Mike talked about, who are both great leaders and entrepreneurs, start with a vision that's bigger. A lot of entrepreneurs define their success as having a company where they don't have a lot of management responsibility and they can run it out of their home or an office or a phone from the beach, but there are entrepreneurs that go on to create great companies like Steve Jobs or